All right, so for lesson 2.5, this is about budgeting. Um, so often we tend to quote unquote budget by spending until we run out of money. We're like, I'm out of money, so now I can't buy stuff. When you're a teenager, that's maybe doable because you're not the one paying rent, utilities. If you run out of money, it means you can't go to the movies with your friends, or you ask your parents for money, or you ask a friend to pay for you. As an adult, if you run out of money because you didn't budget in advance, you might face a $50 or $100 late payment. You might get your electricity turned off and have to pay an extra $150 to get it turned back on, and so forth. So it becomes really important to plan in advance and make sure that, first of all, the utilities and your rent and your housing are the first things that you make sure get paid. Money gets set aside for those. And then secondly, that the most important things that aren't utilities and housing, like food and so forth, you have a set budget to make sure that you're spending within that. The key mathematical concept for that you won't just use for those areas, but in life, is finding percents of a amount, or saying this amount is what percent of the whole. So we're going to start with just a general part-whole relationship in terms of percent, which goes like this. Go ahead and write this down. This is our general formula. Okay, which is percent, let's write it like this, okay, times the whole equals the part. So if I'm given a whole value, like I have a budget of $320, and I have a percent that I need to keep in mind. So maybe my housing, or let's start with savings. My savings should be about 10% of my budget. Then my 10% times that whole amount is going to be the small amount, the part that I should pay towards savings, okay, as an example from the lesson. A slightly longer way of writing this that avoids needing to keep conversions in your head is the percent, I like to write it as this, the percent over 100, okay, times the whole equals the part. In fact, I'm just going to write 100 underneath that. You don't have to erase or rewrite. Okay. Doing it this way, now we can just, instead of converting a percent to a decimal, we can just put 5 over 100 or 10 over 100. 10% is 10 over 100, or 0.10 as our decimal. So that's our form for finding the part. This is solved for part. What if we wanted to find the percent? Okay. I'm going to show some work off to the side. I'd like you to write this down, but it's not a key concept. I want our key concepts on the left here. If I have this percent over 100 times the whole equals the part. And if I want to solve for the whole, for the percent, I want to get this by itself. Then I need to multiply times the reciprocal of its coefficients, or in other words, I'm going to multiply times 100, so my 100s cancel. If I multiply, scooch this over, times 100 on the left, I have to multiply times 100 on the right. And then I also need to divide by the whole in order to get the percent by itself. Okay, which tells me that if I want to find what percent is something, how do I find my percent? That's going to be the part divided by the whole times 100. Part divided by whole will give us the decimal equivalency, times 100 will give us the fraction. So we don't have to remember that in our head, it's in the formula. So this is the formula we're going to bring back over here. So this is the form solved for part. The form solved for percent is part over whole times 100. Okay. Do we have these two formulas? And this formula. Any questions? Just right now, it's just, okay, we have the formulas. I'm not asking you to convert between them. I do want you to know them. Okay, to find a percent, part divided by whole times 100 to make it percent instead of a decimal. To find the part, percent times the whole gives me a percent, dividing by 100 gives me the actual number, decimal part. Percent means per 100. Then we can look at some example questions. So we'll start here. Let's see here. We've got Stephanie. Stephanie wants to save 12% of her monthly part-time income of, Stephanie, what's your monthly part-time income going to be? Pick a number. $200. So just doing a small part-time job. Oops. Got a raise. Okay, of $200. All right. How much? So we're asking for an amount, the part of her income should she set aside for savings each month. All right. So looking at the question, first thing to identify is, are we trying to find a percent or are we trying to find a part? Since we're being asked for an amount, that tells us we're trying to find a part. We're going to use the part formula. So let's say my part, okay, the amount that she's trying to save is going to be equal to the percent. The percent is the 12% of, and I'll write that here, percent. Let's see here, to do yellow with. Right. Okay, percent times the whole. The whole is the total amount she's making, the 200. Okay, whole. And then we'll divide that by 100 to change it from a percent to a dollar amount. That's my formula. I've color-coded where we're going to fill in information. Now my part is equal to 12% times, 12% times the whole of 200, all divided by 100. Now in this case, this is pretty easy. 200 divided, I don't even need to break out my calculator. 200 divided by 100 is 2. Cross out those zeros. 12 times 2 is $24. So if she's trying to save 12% of her monthly part-time income, which would be a little above the rule of thumb of 10%, which is a question on your quiz, so I'm reinforcing for you. We would multiply that 12% times the $200, divide by 100 to get $24. Any questions on that one? Okay, so we'll do a different example. Let's go with Elijah. Okay, Elijah, you're going to be shopping for an apartment. You've graduated high school, is shopping for an apartment, and is considering one that has a rent of, let's say let's instead of an apartment, we're going to go room for rent. Right now, it's hard to find any rentals at all in the Antelope Valley. For a room for rent, just to kind of get started, and it's considering one that has a rent of $600 per month. Okay. His income is, let's see here, let's say $1,500 per month. Okay. I have a brother working at Albertsons, just out of high school. When he works full time, that's about what he's making right now, maybe a little higher. Okay. Can he rent this room? Let's put it this way. What percent of his income would his rent be? Because as a general rule of thumb, like ideally we say your housing, your rent or mortgage shouldn't be more than like 33% of your income, but in California that's usually 50. It's one of the most expensive places for housing, right? So we want to find out what percent of his income would this rent be. Make sense? Okay, so my first question is going to be, am I searching for a percent or for a part? A percent. So I'm going to use my percent formula. Okay, my percent is going to equal the part divided by the whole times 100. So part divided by whole will give me a decimal, times 100 will convert that to a percent. And I have my part. Which number represents my part here? Elijah, this is your question. Which number from our question here represents the part? The 600. Okay, so my percent equals 600. Okay, and Stephanie, which represents my whole? Let me zoom in a little for you. The 1500. There we go. That's my whole. 1500. Okay. Now I can cancel some zeros here, but ultimately I am going to whip out my calculator for this one and very simply do 600 divided by 1500 times 100, and I get a percent of 40%. So that $600 a month would represent 40% of his monthly income, which again is a little high, but in California it's normal for it to be a little higher than that general rule of around 33%. Okay, those are the two types of questions that you'll see from math. There is going to be an assignment going up, 2 assignments. One is a quizzes practice, so it's like a practice for the quiz. You do need to complete that. You have unlimited attempts. Your highest score will go in. Okay, please work on that before the quiz Friday. The other will be some IXL practice questions that I'm going to assign for you. Just click the link, practice until you get the score, and let me know if you have any questions today or tomorrow before Friday. Okay? Thank you. All right, thank you guys. Have a good day. And I will pop